Hello, I'm Don. I'm an alcoholic, and if you're watching this video, you could be on your way to being an X Factor. I don't know if you know what an X Factor is, but an X Factor is somebody that's in Alcoholics Anonymous that believes in doing the steps in a few hours. And I'm gonna take you through that process, and I'm gonna teach you how to be an X Factor. And maybe you could teach your group how to be people in your group how to be X Factors. And you can carry this message the way it was intended to be, not the way it's going on now. I just went to a meeting and the topic was resentment. And everybody shared about resentment, but nobody shared about page 84 that we look for selfishness, dishonesty, and resentment and fear throughout the day. And we ask God to remove that. So obviously, everybody in that group, or, there was about 30 people, hadn't done a 10 step. So, and that's the problem with Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's why people are dying. They're dying left and right because of the nonsense, the bullshit, the shit that goes on in the meetings is horrifying. Finally, I got enough resentment to make a video. This process to do the first 11 steps should take about an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how long you spend on the hour thing. And I don't know if you know much about Alcoholics Anonymous, but once upon a time, there was a guy named Bill Wilson who went to Towns Hospital. And on the third course of his treatment, he had a spiritual awakening, which, he said he met God. Dr. Silkworth told him that was great. At least you believe in something. At least you thought something happened. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the first 11 steps. And this will give you an idea of how to take other people through the steps. And the first thing we want to do is, if your man is sitting in front of you and he's been going to meetings for 25 years and he's got a week of sobriety, chances are, you ask him, do you believe that can you concede to your innermost self that you're an alcoholic and your life is unmanageable? Yes, I lost my da. Okay, yes. Well, according to the big book authors, your man has done the first step. He's admitted he's an alcoholic. That's it. Okay, then we go to step 2. Step 2 is came to believe that a power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity. I usually ask the person, can you see where your life became unmanageable because of your insanity? The fact that, you tell yourself you're going to quit drinking, you come to meetings, you stay for a while, you go back out, and you've never done the steps. You've never been past the third step. You keep coming here. Do you think there is something in this room, that people are doing that is helping them to quit drinking, and then not only quit drinking, but to stay stopped for long periods of time, 25, 30, 40 years, 50 years? Are they doing something that you're missing? If they say yes, they're on step 3, according to the big book authors. I mean, that's how you do it. You go right here to page 63, Tell them a little bit about on page 62. It says, we're agents of God, and that we're going to be reborn, and now you're on step 3. So I tell them, what? Repeat after me. We are now on step 3. Many of us have said to our Maker, as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of bondage of self, I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I'd help. Thy power, thy love, thy way of life, may I do thy will always. So, according to the big book authors, after they repeat that prayer, step 3 is done. That's it. That was step 3. Moving right along. I know, you guys want to complicate it. You know, you got to do this, do that, do this. Logs on a frog, and all, you know. We'll talk a little bit about all that at the end, and we'll see how much time we have. You know, and it says right here, it says, we are launched, right there, where the X is. We are launched into a course of vigorous action. That's on page 63 of personal house cleaning. So, this was step 4. So what we want to do is, what I asked him is, you know, what is the thing that is really blocking you from the sunlight of the Spirit? What's just, eat your lunch? What just, you know, you're thinking about this shit when you're going to bed. You wake up, you're thinking about it, just grinding in your head all day. Oh, your ex-wife? Ex-wife, okay. So I write down ex-wife. What's her name? Okay. We'll use the name. Darla's good. I don't know. Okay. What's next? Well, I was outside my house and I was drinking and I was working on my car. My car was out in the street and a cop came by and I was drunk and he arrested me. And I wasn't even driving the car. Oh, I got to read something against police. Okay. Police. Okay. So the cause, the Darla, ex-wife, we'll write down cause. We'll get this on here. Cause. You can write this down too. Write down your number 1 resentments. Cause, okay. Darla was cheating on me. Cheating. All right. And she took me to court for child support and alimony. Okay. So you just write this down just like it is in the book. All right. She won't let me see my kids. Okay. And this affects my let's see, I'm resentful. At little 2 dots. So it looks, you know, just like it is in the book. Put the dots there, all that stuff. Okay. And 2, we got police. Police. And we'll go back up here to the ex-wife. It affects sex relations, self-esteem, security, because you're not sure what's going to happen in the future. She's taking you to the court, always trying to get, all right. Peace of mind. All right. Police, the cause, because they arrested you. All right. Childhood friend. Jimmy will say. Envious. Post stuff on Facebook of perfect family. Okay. Makes me feel insecure. Less than. Low self-esteem. All right. Employer. For employer. Employer. Unreasonable. Caught me padding the expense account. Hit my pride. Got caught cheating. Stealing. Makes me angry. Okay. Second, my first wife causing me the same problems as my second wife. All right. Okay. Is there anything else blocking you from the sunlight of the Spirit? No? Okay, then we'll make a fears list. Your list may be a little longer. I was kind of just doing this to give you a little example of, how this goes. Fear of dying. Okay. Affects my serenity. Fear. I mean, we could go all day here with fear. Sex inventory. Where did you use sex for, to be selfish, demanded it too much, all this stuff leads to anger. It says anger is our number one offender, which in the 7 deadly sins, it's wrath. So we got this stuff down on paper. We discuss it. You see where, there's a prayer here on page 67 where, I haven't done anything to this person, that person. Well, some people are just sick. It's just something we had to live. Something happened to you in your childhood or something happened. Then you're just sick. So we're sick too. We ask God to help, show the same tolerance, pity, and patience we would cheerfully show a sick friend. It's right there on 67. God saved me from being angry. That's it. Now we got our list. You go over with your man. Can you see where, your ex-wife was trying to help you and you went out and drank and gambled all the rent money away and came home and kicked the cat and didn't have any money to feed the kids. So can you see why maybe she retaliated, how this is your fault? Right. Yeah, okay. You see how you were drinking out in front of your house and you were being rowdy and the neighbors called the police, but if you hadn't been drinking and using that behavior, maybe this wouldn't have happened to you. Okay. Childhood friends, you don't know what's going on with this guy. He might be posting this stuff on Facebook, but you don't know if he's really happy inside. It just makes you a little envious. It's no big deal. But you can pray about it. Employer, got caught stealing, affected your pride, your security. You got fired. That's what happens when we're being dishonest. Can you see where you were dishonest? Okay. Your first wife, same as your second wife. Problems. Keep drinking. That's what happens. Now, are you ready to have all these things that we've just discussed that are objectionable removed? You don't want the baggage? Okay. We'll go to page 76 then. Page 76. Page 76 says, step 6. Step 6. Step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we ready to let God remove all these defects of character we admitted are objectionable? Can He now take all of them? Everyone, if we still cling to something, we shall not let it go. Ask God for the willingness. So the way I look at step 6 is all these things are related in one thing. I looked at step 6 as I'm suffering from the sins of man. And it says it in the 12 and 12. Pride, sloth, lust, envy, greed, wrath, gluttony. And these are the things that are killing us. They're the deadly sins that are out to kill us. But the tricky part is we need the deadly sins. I mean, if If we're not lustful, we won't reproduce. If we're not greedy, we need like some kind of element of drive to be to prideful. But these have to be balanced, and we're unable to do it. So what we do is we ask God when we're ready. We then say something like this: "My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me the strength as I go out from here to do your bidding." We have then completed step 7. So we need no more action. We find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. 8 and 9. Okay, it says we have a list. That list is right here from your 4th step. Imagine that. So, is there anything else or anybody else that you might owe an amends? You overdrew your bank account. Okay, we're going to add that. Okay, you missed child support and you owe the courts money. You got a warrant. Okay. Anything else you can think of? Nope. Okay, well, what you need to do is become willing to make amends to these people that we discussed that you admitted you played a part in. These financial amends, you need to make restitution. So then we go over here. And we read on page 83, the spiritual life is not a theory, we have to live it. Okay, let's read this. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom, a new happiness. We'll not regret the past to wish to shut the door on it. We'll comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, you will see how your experience can benefit others. That feeling of usefulness, self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for us. These extravagant promises, we think not, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, they will always materialize. Then right after that, page 84, it says, this thought brings us to step 10. Why do you go to step 10 and 11 before you become willing to make amends? In my experience, every time I made it down, since my mother had a 7-figure bank account, every time I made it down to step 9, my sponsor would go, or whatever sponsor I was working with at the time would say, you know what, go make some amends. So I'd rush over to my mother and say, I'm sorry, I apologize, because I want to get back in her purse strings, get back in that pocketbook. Because we're not ready yet. We haven't become willing. We got to drop right down here into step 10. And this says, we suggest that you continue to take personal inventory as you continue to set right any new mistakes. So we got to continuously look for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And when it crops up, we immediately got to ask for it to be removed. As, there's a word in there, as, on page 84, as we cleaned up the past vigorously. So vigorously, before you start doing your amends, you're vigorously working step 10. And then we go into a position of neutrality. It says in step 10 on page 84, we cease fighting everyone and everything, even alcohol. And that's because the battle is on a spiritual level now. You're gonna start being rocketed into the 4th dimension when you keep doing this. You're gonna feel a 6th sense. This is how you stay spiritually fit, looking through this stuff throughout the day. Then it says, so that's it. Here's a quick cease fighting everything and everyone. We don't know what's good for us. We don't know what's bad for us. A guy, he's a blacksmith or something. His house burns, his business burns down. The villagers say this is a bad thing. He says, could be a bad thing, could be a good. How could it be a good thing? And then he takes a job as a sharecropper. The sharecropper, his horse dies. And they're like, the villagers run up, now you can't feed your son. You love your son, and now your business burned down, your horse died. So he sends his son out to look for a horse. When he sends his son out looking for a horse, a bunch of other horses come back with him, 100 Mustangs. Now he's the richest man. Now what happens is, wow, he's the richest man, went from the poorest, one of the poorest people in the village to the richest. And the villagers are like, this is a great thing, this is a great thing. And he goes, could be good, could be bad. And then what happens is his son goes out, breaks in the horse throws him, breaks his back. Now his son is crippled. And they're like, this is a bad thing, your son is crippled. He goes, it could be good, it could be bad. And then the villagers are like, could be good. Next day, a bunch of soldiers come through and say, we're taking all the healthy men to war. All of them go to battle. All the healthy men that got taken from that village go to battle, and they all get slaughtered. So, what could be, but it's sometimes if you look back over your life, things that you thought were good turned out to be bad, like your marriages. Things that you thought were going to be bad turned out to be good. That's just the way it goes. Step 11. Suggest, right here, but further means more action is to be taken. It says here, alcohol is but a subtle flow. We have to keep spiritually fit. This is how we stay spiritually fit. Then we get to step 11. Your big book, if you take enough people through the steps, will look like this. I know. This is one of my newer books. And as you see, I don't know how this happened, but as I was taking people through the steps, I folded the page back to show them how to get from 11 to 10, back up to the nightly review and down to awakening. And then I would say you just go around in a circle, and triangle formed in the middle of my big book. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's God working in my life. So this, as it says, now we're at step 11. Why can't you do an honest 9th step? Because it says here, when we wake up in the morning on awakening, we ask God to direct our thinking, that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonesty, and self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ mental facilities with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be put on a much higher plane. Be pure, be cleared of wrong motives. Like when you make your amends and you got those motives going on. So then what I do is not when my physical eyes open up, not when my mind's eye opens up, when I hit consciousness, when I hit awakening, I go, God, please direct my thinking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonesty, and self-seeking motives. And that's it. The serpent agent can't get in, because on page 62, it says we're agents of God. Now, if you're an agent of God, the opposing force is the serpent agent, which is basically the devil. So the opposing force is the serpent agent, and people become compromised. They come into AA, they work the program, they're in God. All of a sudden you hear them say, nah, I'm not working the program anymore. That's the serpent agent working on them. And it says here on page 63, we were reborn. You're born again. You got a new life. Your job is working for God. You're an agent of God, and the opposing. And don't think that the serpent agent is not in all those rooms. Don't think when resentment comes up that nobody mentions, 20 people share and no one ever mentions page 84. We look for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear throughout the day. Nobody ever mentions that. They just go on and on about, their day. All right. Then, I usually conclude this period of prayer with this period of meditation. I ask God to direct my thinking. Then I start thinking of how I can help people better. What can I do? What can I be? How can I be more useful? And then I can conclude the period of prayer with right here, with being careful not to pray for myself. I don't pray for new cars. I don't pray for yachts, big houses, Playboy models. I pray for where others can be helped. So I say the St. Francis prayer. I say the third step prayer off of page 63. I say the seventh step prayer off of page 76. I do this every morning. It's not a theory. I really do it. And you get into the fourth dimension. My whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. And change and change and change and changes every day. It's like when you look at a little cube that's in 4D. You keep looking at it and all of a sudden it changes. And that's how life is. Everything's new. Old will be new. And then we slide right into faith without works is dead. This says here, intensive alcoholics. Intensive work with other alcoholics. Now, whether you believe it or not, according to the big book authors, I just took you through the first 11 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. You are now an X Factor. That's a pinky swear. But here's the thing, here's the deal. If you don't wake up and read pages 84 on awakening, okay, I did leave something out. If you don't look for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear throughout the day and ask God to remove it and keep your position in neutrality and stay spiritually fit and carry this message just like I carried it to you. And then up here we have a nightly review. And it says we constructively review our day. So I take out my book at night and I constructively review my day. Was I resentful? Yep. I went to a meeting and those people were clueless. Was I selfish? Yes, because I jumped in and started sharing. Was I dishonest? I was a little bit, as far as, maybe I could have worked a little harder at work, but we're just making this up. And then, was I afraid? Let's see. I wasn't really afraid today. I mean, I was a couple of things I was a little fearful at. I was running low on fuel because I drive a truck. So I thought maybe, I might run out, but that all worked out. And, I made this video. I went to a meeting. I shared my experience, strength, and hope. I called a newcomer that just went out and offered him to take him through the steps just like I'm taking you. And, then it says we end our day by asking forgiveness because we're never going to be perfect. So every day we're going to need forgiveness. And then, you need to do intensive work with alcoholics. Sit down across your man. Just do just like we did. And that's how long it takes to get through the steps. Now, you might be like, oh, no, the steps aren't that easy. It's all kinds of craziness. And the man on the bed went through the steps, Bill Dotson, in a couple of hours. Clarence Snyder, where I got my message from, is the 44th member of Alcoholics Anonymous. He is the most successful man in Alcoholics Anonymous. He started Alcoholics Anonymous. Clarence Snyder. S-N-Y-D-E-R. That's Clarence Snyder. And he started Alcoholics Anonymous. The first meeting, he broke away from the Oxford group. He started a meeting in Cleveland, Ohio. And he hijacked the name from Alcoholics Anonymous. And then Alcoholics Anonymous hijacked the thing back from him. And he was taking the people through the steps in one day. He still has, everything that, I just did. And every way I take the people through the steps are just the way they used to do it in the early 40s. Straight out the book. Not, making Serenity Prayer is not in the book. 90 meetings, 90 days, not in the book. Once I ask God, once you wake up in the morning and ask God to direct your thinking, I'm done with you. I mean, I could give you a little advice. I could give you a little pity, but, pretty much you're on your own. You need to go help somebody else, get a job, show up for work, and go to meetings and see who you can help, who you can 12-step. I take people to the restaurant all the time after the meeting. A lot of guys are over there talking politics and gun control and Democrat, Republican stuff, debating baseball. Meanwhile, I'm over at this other table and I've taken 3 people through the steps, and they've taken 3 people through the steps, and they've taken 3 people through the steps. And I have a lot of people that, come up with me, have 10 more years of sobriety than I do. And they say, well, could you take me through the steps? I'm kind of confused. And they go, I went through the steps, but I just really came here. And sometimes I tell them that, man, they catch on fire. And I don't follow the traditions. I'm not a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm just an X Factor. If you run into an X Factor, the person that believes in doing the steps in one day. Peace out.